Ready.
Hello, welcome to the next episode of the RC Harga Show. It's episode, I think, 9 or 10. It's one of those two. Today I have the man, the myth, the legend, Tgspy from The Frontier and various other things. How you doing today, Tgspy?
Hello. I'm doing great. It is boiling hot here. I am drinking Monster and having a great time.
I'm drinking alcohol. It's cold as fuck outside. So we're opposite ends of
That's
the
so
spectrum right
valid.
now. So real. So
That's it.
why don't you give our lovely audience a little recap of what all you do in the community?
I've been around for about a decade now. I am the project lead for Fallout Frontier, the original version, as well as for the current Fallout New Frontier. And I've contributed in some manner or another to a significant amount of different other projects in various unassuming ways. I don't have a huge amount of explicit mods to my name, but I'm more sort of the background person that just kind of exists and sort of the figurehead behind the scenes for a few years there. Um, but yeah, I've been doing modding now for over a decade and a little bit. Um, Worked my way up from doing nothing to now doing everything. So
Yeah.
it's kind of been a fun little ride, so to speak.
Well, I bet with a year of experience working on the, or not a year, 10 years of working on the frontier, I bet you have some stories and experience, huh?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot of fun sort of things that have happened over the last 10 years. Some good, some bad, some in the middle. But it has been a great learning experience to sort of stretch the limits of what we can do with this game and stretch the limits of what can be done with a team project.
I mean, the sky is the limit, obviously. Y'all went to space
Oh,
even.
absolutely. And we went to space. Um, and surprisingly, not the most complicated thing in the mod. Um, but yeah, there's been a lot of sort of boundaries we've broken, a lot of things we've done in the last decade. But more than anything, I'm just incredibly proud of the work that everyone has sort of contributed over the last sort of 10 plus years. It's amazing to work with a group of amazing people and meet people and all that wonderful stuff.
So I suppose I should start this off with like my first real question is what keeps you going on the frontier?
A lot of what keeps me going now is a commitment to see through the work that's sort of been happening over the last 5 odd years since the release of the legacy build. Um, I am not as personally invested in it for myself anymore as I am invested in it for the sake of the dozens and dozens of people's work and the hundreds and hundreds of man hours that have been put into building and creating this phenomenal world that I could never have done by myself. So a lot of what keeps me going is a sense of wanting to do the right thing by the people who have put in work to see us come to the point that we are right now.
What would you say is like the big crown jewel of the frontier, even through the rework?
I would say the world space has probably been our single biggest thing. I have long since said that exploration and world is probably one of the biggest elements of why I enjoy Fallout. It's why I enjoyed Fallout 3, why I enjoyed New Vegas, why I enjoyed everything else. I really enjoyed the ability to experience the crafted world and sort of the sporadic world that sort of is created not just by us as the developers and by modders, but also as a player. being able to roam around and create your own experiences. So the work that we've done to take what was already a really phenomenal world space in the legacy build, we have spent the last couple of years completely blowing up quite a few spots of the world space to redo them, bring them up to the current standards, because a lot of the spaces in the world in Legacy hadn't really had any major work done on them since they were created back in early 2014, 2015. So a lot of it has been touched up. We've added heaps of new areas. We've added massive changes to help make the world feel a little bit more alive, a little bit more Skyrim-like, if anything, in how it feels to explore and get immersed, as much as I hate to say the word, in the sort of existence that we've created with the Frontier now.
That's very interesting. So I know that the Frontier has had a myriad of issues from its previous builds, and it has that whole negative stigma about it. And then there's all this misinformation about herder Deathclaw sex. How do you not let that kind of reputation get to you? As the project lead.
Fine. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can dwell on, and there's only so many times you can go over the exact same situation and the exact same complaints before it starts to sort of become meaningless. And over the years, we've sort of done our absolute best to correct all of the faults that people had with us in the first place. Frankly, a lot of the faults that people had were corrected within a month of us being released, and people tend to forget that because the negative stipulation was coming from people who had only ever played the release build and never actually did anything beyond that. So a lot of the complaints that we've had, we've already corrected. And for me personally, I mean, I still get riled up when people are shit talking because it's my nature to, as an Australian, to pick fights. But I try to not let it affect me as much as it used to. And I have a really wonderful team that helps keep me personally focused, and, a wonderful support group that keeps me kind of sane rather than falling into bad habits and such.
That's a very good thing to have, especially with as such a large team as the Frontier has. I say that as having been on that team formerly at one point. For very briefly.
Yes.
My bad.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing is, how do you deal with burnout? Because I know you guys have a lot of team members who get burned out on the project and eventually just do what I did.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Ark, I forget, what did you even do? I was supposed to do weapon stuff and I didn't.
Yeah. We'll ignore that.
We'll put a pin in that.
The way that the way that I deal with burnout is that I don't. No, that's not true. I took basically all of 2023 or 2022 away from modding. So I had a really decently year-long break from touching anything modding related. And the way that I sort of approach burnout now is that because I'm not working towards any specific deadline, if I don't feel like I want to mod in a specific week, I just won't open the GEC. I used to have the habit of staring at the GEC for 5 hours on a weekend or even a weekday after work and trying to make something from nothing. But the way I approach it now is if nothing's going to sort of naturally come to me and there's nothing that I particularly am invested in wanting to fix, I just will do something else. There's not really much magic to it. There's not really any healthy coping mechanisms. It's just, for me, a matter of removing myself from that situation and focusing on something else. I'll just go and watch some TV. I'll play some games, watch some YouTube, come back another day. that's ADHD for you as well. It's
Very
very
typical.
much a case of it can only keep my attention for so long, and at the end of the day, there's only so much I can do to sort of force that, and I'm not gonna bother trying to force it if I can't make it happen.
Yeah, trying to force something, like even forcing yourself to work on something, it just ends up getting an inferior product. I've found, like even like
Yeah, exactly.
that's kind of why I left when I did, because I was trying to force myself to do stuff, and it was just like not clicking.
Yeah,
And then
yeah. No, like I get it.
yeah.
I get it.
So to go on to more positive topics, what do you think is currently the best work in the rebuild of the Frontier?
I think there's a lot of things that the team can be very proud about in the rework. Uh, one of the more sort of quietly understated things is definitely the new music. I'm a really big fan of custom music tracks, and we've had the privilege of having quite a few very talented composers working for us for several years. Some have come and gone, of course, but we've had a lot of people contribute some really awesome music. Beyond that, I think the work that we're doing in broadening the impact that the player can have on the world, as well as the overall impact that quests and other player-related elements have in the world, is a big part of what I believe is helping to make the Frontier feel like it's far more of a cohesive, complete game rather than just another mod project, which is the big thing that I'm striving for as part of this rework, is that I am pushing for it to be what I kind of always wanted it to be, which was a complete game in an experience. So a complete experience rather than a self-contained DLC. It just didn't fit in terms of where the scale sat. It just didn't really make sense for the Frontier to be hooked into New Vegas. So that's why I'm really glad we've pivoted away from that to a pretty major extent, and are pushing towards it being a new experience.
So is it going to be a total conversion, or is it just going to be you access the content from Vegas?
So there's two ways that we're sort of working this in. There's going to be essentially a option to start in New Vegas as normal, and you can enter the Frontier at a much earlier level. You actually go to the 188 trading post, is where you go to actually start the Frontier now, rather than having to go to basically the other side of the map, which worked for the sort of late game DLC style that we had initially, but doesn't work for the entry level early game that we're striving for now. So there's that, which we kind of are deeming the Nexus version. And then there's the full start option, which is essentially you start in the Frontier, you hit new game on the main menu, you start in the Frontier, you play it as if it were a full game, you have credits, all that kind of wonderful stuff. So there's two distinct options that we've kind of accounted for in terms of how the writing is done. You have the option of being either the courier of the Mojave, or you can be a merc in the Frontier.
Will you be able to go into the Mojave from the Frontier if you do that option, or is that not?
So if you do the merc option, the intent is it's being played as a full new game experience, and you can theoretically probably just go into the Mojave if you really want. We're not going to strip the Mojave out of the Frontier or anything like that. Like, we're not going to lock it down. But the intent is the Frontier is being set up in that full start option to be a new game experience and not a large DLC experience, which a lot of other projects did, and it's what the Legacy did as well. So if you start in the Frontier, you stay in the Frontier.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. What caused this shift in, like,
Yeah.
uh, I guess the design of it? What caused, like, the whole?
Frankly,
Yeah.
yeah, it hasn't necessarily been a shift caused by some sudden recent thing. Since I started, I have always kind of been on the side of having the Frontier be a experience in of itself, disconnected from the game. But the way that the Legacy build was sort of set up from day dot meant that we didn't have the flexibility of turning it into a new game without having some pretty major rewrites, which we couldn't do when we were trying to finish all of the actual new content to begin with. And as part of my rework, that has been a bigger focus for me to bring it to that new game experience as opposed to the large DLC experience.
Okay. So you're focusing more on the Frontier being its own complete experience versus just something that's an afterthought, like some of the DLCs for Vegas are, or some of the other projects that kind of come out like that. It's a shift in focus.
Correct. So we're Yeah, it's a major shift in focus. It does, frankly, kind of push the boundaries of what my initial desires for this rework were going to be. The initial desire for this rework was going to be relatively um, relatively small. The initial sort of thoughts was that we would just focus on finishing up some of the new content and finish some of the old content, make it all functional, call it a day. But the longer we went on, I sort of grew a little bit more attached to the idea of us actually putting in the effort that I wanted to have put in the initial Legacy build, bringing those ideas that we talked about 8+ years ago and putting it into the current build that we actually want to be experiencing.
So, if I could speak English, that'd be great. My next question for you is, how do you deal with the feature creep? Because I know there is a little bit of feature creep in the mod. It's kind of the nature of the beast as these big projects go.
Dealing with feature creep is not easy. But yeah, sorry, I can't go off.
No, you're good. Just keep going on that. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, dealing with feature creep isn't easy. And the way that I sort of deal with it is taking the routes that at the end of the day, the only things that are going into the project now are the things that I want to see as a player. We had played the initial versions of the Frontier and the first versions of the rework as a democratic process where everyone had the ability to basically add whatever content they so choose. Which is great because it means that everyone has the capability to contribute whatever they like. The issue with that, of course, is that it leads to content that sort of starts to push the boundaries of necessity and going, why does this need to exist? Did we really need to add this? So part of my rework pattern and programming is that I get the final say on everything, and we scale back things as we need to prevent things sort of going runaway. I've spoken at length before that the new Frontier will have a larger segment of scavenger factions because they were a little bit of an underdeveloped faction side initially.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, we can't develop 5 entirely new quest lines in the time it would take to get this rework out. We would be doing this for another 10 years.
Of course not.
So
it's just not feasible.
Exactly. To reduce the sort of reduce that sort of feature creep, we're focusing on the factions that the player is most likely to be interacting with. Um, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to good game design. And there's no point putting, 5,000 man hours of work into a piece of content that the player isn't necessarily likely to ever actually play. So the way that we're focusing is the quests and the quest lines that actually will be seen by the player are getting the most focus and getting the most attention. So the things that the player is likely to stumble upon as they do their run through, their sort of guided tour of the frontier, they're the things that we're prioritizing. For all of the other kinds of feature creep, there has been a lot of individual features that we've sort of trialed over the years that have had good results, bad results. There's some things we've scrapped, some things that we've reduced in size, which is totally fine. Not everything can work. Not everything has to go in, and some things don't fit. And if something doesn't fit in terms of the amount of time it will take to implement it compared to the amount of player enjoyment that they're actually going to get out of it, it doesn't really see a good purpose to exist in the frontier as it exists at the moment.
So basically what you're saying is if it doesn't fit like the kind of vibe and content you want to have for that mod project, it shouldn't really be in there. It's like you learned the lesson, or you guys learned the lesson the hard way with
absolutely, yeah,
with the NCR quest line, I suppose then, and how that all went.
Yeah, the NCR didn't fit. I think there are elements of the NCR main quest that I think we could have kind of cut down and sort of reworked to be functional, but it wasn't worth the amount of time investment that would take. That's how I sort of see it, is if the time investment to player feedback is not a sort of valid sort of comparison, it doesn't really need to be there.
Oh, I just noticed a lot of people just joined the server, huh? I guess that has the that's the Frontier server being pinged. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, hey, it works. Everyone gets pinged today. Kept you waiting, huh? But yeah, to like touch on that, I think there is kind of a place for content that doesn't quite fit in mods. And that's I wouldn't say the NCR main quest fit, because I mean I've seen playthroughs of it. I haven't played through it personally, but it's been out for how long? A long
5 years now.
Yeah, 5 years. You tend to watch a YouTuber like Mike Burnfire play through it, and I think like the drop pod stuff was really cool with like the Enclave stuff, and like the cryptids like the Wendigo. The spiders, I'm still waiting on them to be a standalone, but I understand that isn't going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Skitters will never be free.
Look, the Skitters will never be free. No. That's a topic. That's a fun topic in of itself. But the reality is there are certain elements of the NCR main quest that with an understandable amount of rework to them, some of the quests would be quite fun to play. Chapter 1 is completely gone. Chapter 2 is functional to a certain extent. And there's actually a couple of quests from Chapters 2 that we still have, because they're actually quite good side quests in of themselves, disconnected from the NCR main quest. Chapter 3 is a space station. Get rid of that. That could be better if it weren't for the fact that there are so many lore breaks in it that it kind of makes it pointless to exist. Chapter 4 and Chapter 4.5 some of that stuff can be kept in. The Ostia missions are really great. I actually quite enjoyed those. That is content that would be functional. But yeah, there are places for things that don't necessarily exist in mods, and there are things that I have removed that maybe we could have kept. But at the end of the day, it's all about time focus. If we wanted to do everything, nothing would ever happen.
You have to pick which battles you're willing to fight.
It's a priority thing.
So I know
exactly, yeah. And part of that, yeah, go on.
I'll finish your thought. Then I want to go on to another thing that's on my mind with the Frontier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you finish your thought? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot my thought. So just continue.
Oh, I know that you said that the Legion's was cut. What other, or not the Legion, the NCR was cut. What other factions ended up getting cut from that, or reworked rather?
So the NCR main quest was cut. The NCR themselves still exist, and that's by necessity. We can't cut the NCR without essentially rewriting every major quest line and every second side quest. They all in some way refer to some elements that already exist. The way that we've reworked the NCR, for example, is it's a lot more low key now. The way that it works is you essentially can join up as a recruit, and you aren't put through some mission. You're basically told, okay, here's your guns, stand by for a mission, and you as the player can just go about and just do side quests. And as you do side quests, you can basically gain ranks. Is the really dumbed down way of explaining it. So you sort of gain ranks, and then you get rewards based on what you would have gotten had you played the NCR main quest, because some of the content's kind of cool. And it gives you a pathway to also exit the Frontier if you're doing a courier run. So if you still want to roleplay as a member of the NCR, you have a pathway to do it. It's just a lot less full formed than playing as either the Legion or the Crusaders.
That sounds like a pretty good way to go about it, especially since how like deeply ingrained the NCR questline is in the Frontier. From what I remember from the two or three playthroughs I watched of it, that's the only way you could really do it.
Yep.
Because if you just make them a different faction, you have to not only
we can't cut them.
Yeah, you can't. You have to re-record all the lines and then redo all this quest structure, and that's just not viable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's way too much time.
So we decided it would be better to just sort of rework. Yep. The goal of the very first initial rework was that we were going to essentially just remake the NCR main quest and fix up a few lore breaks. But we kind of realized very early on that making the NCR main quest would just require too much time. We had a pretty decent plan of what we wanted to do. Frankly, I quite liked the reworked NCR main quest. It was going to focus a lot more on how the Wolfpack was interacting with the NCR. There was basically a complete shift in how the player was viewed. The player actually has to earn their respect. And it's sort of more like a character-driven deep dive on how Blackthorn and the Wolfpack and all these other members sort of held the NCR up in the Frontier, and eventually how Blackthorn became self-destructive in trying to fight a battle he didn't know how to win, and how Rancor, quote-unquote, how his background sort of forced him to be the mediator that sits in the middle, whilst at the same time whilst at the same time trying to go for his own goals. But it will never happen because I got burnt out to the point where I quit doing the NCR main quest, because doing quest stuff of that scale is a years-long process, and I didn't really have years of quest making in me at that time.
To
So I kind of had to sort of throw that under the rug.
Unrelated, I just had to like do a Discord auto mod thing because so many people fucking joined from the Frontier in the past like 5 minutes. They thought we were getting raided. Christ.
Oh, Lamal, that's funny.
Oh my god.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. It's funny as fuck.
Sorry about that.
Uranium fever is here.
Yeah.
Shit ton of people. Okay. But going back to that, I think it's interesting the way that you guys have gone about. I mean, I've seen how the internal structure is as a former member for like 6 months. It's interesting to see how the development like shifted from let's rework as much as we can and then just put this out to I want this to be its own experience and it needs to like feel cohesive and good. And I'm glad that that's a thing. I'm glad that you guys started going that direction.
Yeah, I think part of it was also that we had already kind of done a pretty sizable chunk of new content in the initial rework versions, and even going beyond what I had been present for. We had done a good chunk of new content, and there was so much to explore in this new content that I thought, rather than leave it all on the table in prioritizing just reworking the stuff that doesn't make sense in terms of lore and finishing up some previously created content, expanding this stuff gave us the ability to build it into a experience, as I've sort of mentioned. I also personally think that I kind of just really enjoyed the process of finally feeling like I had the full like authority and power as the project lead to really build the project as the way I wanted it to be, because it didn't really work like that in the legacy build. We were a lot more democratic and things kind of had to be done certain ways and you couldn't change things without pissing people off too much. Nowadays, it is entirely about the vision that I want to see for this project, and everyone has the ability to contribute, but as part of the rework process, everyone has the ability to contribute as long as it serves the goal of what I want for the project. Because at the end of the day, having a unified vision is a slightly easier thing to contend with than the chaotic, semi-democratic process we had in the initial rework versions, which led to us kind of shattering a little bit because people would give differing opinions and it would lead to infighting and it would lead to arguments. Whereas now I would like to think we've cultivated a really genuinely mindful and respectful team. Even if a lot of people do disappear quite frequently, I don't hold it against anyone. Yeah, I don't hold it against people. I just appreciate that everyone is helping work and contribute towards a unified vision of what I really think could be a phenomenal Fallout experience.
And I think that's like the best thing about this kind of project is that it has passion behind it still. Like, yes, you guys got met with some of the most negative vitriol this whole community has to offer. Some of it deserved, some of it very not deserved. But it's very good that you guys have cultivated this project to being something that is bigger in scope than the original project, more cohesive in other ways.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that despite the fact we've sort of changed away from that democratic process, everyone feels like their contributions matter and people aren't just getting overwritten. It's a much more friendly environment as well. That's a big thing for me. Is I saw how negative the initial legacy build as well as the rework build got, and I didn't want to have that be the stain of how this project was viewed. I am really happy with the phenomenal team that I now work with. Everyone
Excuse me.
contributes in a way that works for them on a timeline that works for them, and not everyone is able to contribute every second of the day. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me as long as people feel safe and welcomed in this sort of community project that I've created.
And that, I think, is the best. It's the best feeling to have when a project you're a part of, or even a team you're a part of, is really positive and isn't like blowing itself up constantly. And I think that's something definitely to be proud of. It's a very good work environment,
Exactly.
even though if I just kind of left, but hey, bygones, bygones.
That's fine. I'll forgive you if you come back. Until then, I have your picture on a dartboard. Um,
Oh, oh no.
but yeah, no, it's yeah, it is what it is. Um, I would like to think that the frontier, in its current state, is in a position where anyone who is comfortable modding would feel comfortable coming and doing stuff with us, with the only expectation being that you are able to enjoy yourself. I try and keep my expectations relatively calm and sort of compressed. I don't want people being stressed more than anything. I stress myself, but that's just me. I overwork myself pretty aggressively, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I know you've been
At the end of the
around
day,
for a damn minute working on stuff. It's kind of impressive.
oh, absolutely. It's the only reason I'm still here is because, as I said, I've got a great support network of modders and people who have been around me for a long time who support me, and I support myself. Hopium for sure. But yeah, I could continue on 1,000 different rants about how important community is.
So to pivot away from 1,000 rants, uh, what do you think is the worst part about having to restart the frontier?
I think the worst part for me was having to essentially play the beginning of a D&D campaign in having to collect all of the main characters again. That
Mm.
was a bit of a pain in the neck. I was very lucky in that some of the very key players like Mac and Wei Jason and Pixel Height and a few others still were working with me very quietly behind the scenes for quite a while before I sort of came forward with the new rework. But building the team back up to a point where it's not just me contributing took quite some time. And I still don't think the project has as many members as I'd really like. I would love to see more active contribution, but at the same time, I know that the modding community as a whole is kind of at a point where everyone's very focused on their own projects, and I don't begrudge anyone, wanting to prioritize their own stuff. It is what it is. But yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. I really do appreciate a lot of the work you guys have done with that, and that you guys are still doing work and pushing, even pushing the envelope even further now for a project that most people have written off as
Yeah.
unobtainium, never coming out. And I think that's really good.
Yeah. Look, thank you. As I said, it's a team effort at the end of the day. I couldn't have done it without um, without the people that work alongside me. I said very early on that if I have to dip and I can't continue the Frontier for whatever reason, it would very likely just be released in whatever state that it's in, because there is too much work to be leaving on the table, and I don't want the Frontier becoming, abandonware or vaporware or anything. I want it to be existing in the world, but I'm feeling pretty confident that we can finish it, just based on the amount of stuff that we get done on a weekly basis.
And that, hey, 2026 Frontier release, maybe.
I think it's safer to always say that I don't want to set any deadlines again. I set a very aggressive deadline in the initial legacy build that I really now regret. I wish we hadn't set that January deadline. I wish we had spent 5 months sitting down and focusing on going through the QA side of things. Not to say that we didn't do QA. You should see the bug report Trello that we had before we launched. There was a lot. There was a lot of stuff we fixed.
Did you say
but
bug
at the end of the day,
trailer?
I wish we Trello.
Okay.
It's
Trello. My bad. I don't know why I just thought making a bug report trailer for bug reports sounds really fucking funny.
No. But yeah, there was so many bugs we fixed. But again, it was part of the problem with how the initial rework, the initial legacy build was handled. We kind of white gloved it a little too much when really we should have invited several dozen people to break it. And we didn't. I wish we had. And yeah, unfortunately, I kind of wish that we had sat down and just nuked the NCR main quest a little bit and disconnected it a bit before we released, but the timeline between Devil's Wish leaving and the Frontier coming out was quite tight, so we didn't have that opportunity. But all things said, I think setting a deadline would do us no favors. I would like to release this as soon as humanly possible because, frankly, I kind of want to do other things. And I hate working on an engine from 2000 and fuck you.
What do you mean? The Fallout 3 remaster comes out like next week, and it's on the same engine.
I really hope I really hope not. I really hope not.
We're gonna be on Gamebryo for like the next 30 years. I don't.
Oh.
Fallout remaster in New Vegas? When?
Yeah, no.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's your next big
want to say it. I don't want to say it. God no. God no.
I had one of my IRL friends ask me what I'm gonna do if Fallout 3 New Vegas comes out, and I said I'm not gonna do shit. That's not my game.
Yeah, no, I don't imagine I'm probably going to do very much. I might, but God, I don't have the energy to remaster the Frontier when it's not even done yet.
Are we done yet?
But we'll see. We'll see.
My next question for you is, what else are you working on besides Frontier?
Me, nothing.
Nothing.
That's the reality. No, that's the reality of how I work now.
Yeah.
I don't really work on things outside of the Frontier, and the reason for that is that I don't really feel that much desire to do other mods. I would probably spend way too much of my time working on these other mods if I was to start them, and it would just take away from the Frontier, and I have a personal commitment as a project lead to sit down and prioritize that over doing, extra fluff mods. I did start a fixed up version of a really old quest mod a while ago. Yeah. But I never went anywhere with it. I fixed like several dozen bugs with it. But I never went anywhere with it. It was sort of just like a very random spur of the moment, like how much stuff can I do in a day? And turns out a lot. It turns out I can do a lot in a day. But I don't really work on much outside of the Frontier. I just don't feel the passion to do mods outside of the Frontier, just because this is my baby. This is what I want to prioritize working on. I don't really care about working on other stuff.
That's very understandable. I kind
Yeah,
of just like working on my own stuff as well. So I definitely get that. I learned that last year. That I'm not really happy working on other people's stuff unless like I have complete control of what I do. As unfortunate as that is, and
yeah.
that sounds weird, but like you know what I mean by that. It's I want to work on.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a it's part of the reason why we've sort of had um, a revolving door of different team members in the last couple of years. There are certain team members who I wish had stuck around. Balanced people are very hard to keep a hold of, which is deeply, deeply depressing to me, because balanced people are the ones that I really want at the moment, because as part of the sort of a new game reimagining of the new Frontier, it's getting a top to bottom rework in terms of the balance as well, which we've already done a lot of, which is great. But there's more of that being done. But balanced people are very hard to to hold on to, because every one of them sort of take a month and then go, oh, actually, I want to work on my own stuff, which it is what it is. But like, can more people stick around? Yeah, that'd be great.
We will now move on to the next segment because with as many people here as there are, I expect a lot of questions for the last segment. Do you have any questions for me besides when I'm rejoining the Frontier? I won't answer that one.
Yes, when you rejoin. No. um, no. Yes, my question for you is, what do you enjoy the most about what you do in modding?
What do I enjoy the most about what I do? Honestly, the thing I enjoy the
Yep.
most is making something that feels good to me, I guess, and then seeing other people enjoy that thing just as much. With with
Yeah.
projects like Another Millennia and Tactipack, you get a lot of feedback from other people being like, "Oh, this gun's too OP," or "This gun's not strong enough." "This gun shot my mom," stuff like that. So when people like really vibe with the decisions I've made or like things I've made, it makes me really happy. I mean, it pushes me on honestly to continue doing this, that, and like the $30 of Nexus bucks I get every month. But
Yeah.
I don't get any from Another Millennia though. Uh, it's definitely like the positive feedback from it, and that's why I think like my smaller mods are some of my
Yeah.
best mods. Even though like you can't beat Another
And
Millennia.
that's a sentiment that a lot of people share. Yeah.
Like my ghoul
Making
mod.
stuff for yourself is how you should.
My ghoul mod's my favorite thing I've worked on. And then there's like Parks, which is my TTW feature creep. I think that thing's underrated and really good. Everyone who uses TTW, everyone should use TTW.
Mm.
But everyone should use Parks if they have TTW.
Yeah.
It's like this small
I
stuff.
think.
I like working on small stuff that like just kind of locks into the game. I want to make mods that people like.
Quality of life.
Yeah, definitely quality of life. I want like people to use mods of well, not even just of mine, but like things they can't remove from their load order because they love it.
Yeah.
And then the challenge is keeping it up to date with whatever NVSE update comes out or like whatever fork of Johnny Guitar pops up. But yeah,
Yeah, or whatever. Fork of Jay Sawyer.
my other favorite thing about modding is seeing the bad bug reports
Ha.
because I will get bug reports for mods that aren't
Oh
even
boy.
mine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Actually, Johnny Guitar is crashing my game. I use Centaur's guide. Please help.
Oh God. See it.
Yeah.
How old I am, I remember when Senator's Guide came out. I was part of the initial like hate squad for it. I've been around so long. Um, But
Like,
yeah, I definitely vibe with the notion of making things that feel right to you. I think that's a good statement on art in general, is that if you design for committee, it's always going to kind of feel like the average of what a lot of people want. Making things for yourself and seeing other people enjoyment is exactly what you should be doing with art. And modding is an art to an extent. You know, it's a technically driven art, but being able to make something that feels genuine to yourself is pretty awesome.
I mean, that's how Nether Millennia started. I only made it because I didn't like the other Millennia mods that were out, and
Yeah.
I did it in the dumbest way possible by rebuilding my by building my own damn ESP. No records, baby. Full gas.
It's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have
Now
done
we're
that
cooking with
now, but
gas.
yeah, that just I'm proud of what I've done. I think that people enjoy my stuff, and I know people find my personality funny, and I think that's also like adding to the whole ego part of it. And
Yeah.
it's just a positive feedback loop.
I think it's definitely the best way to keep modding. I've said to my team multiple times that the best thing people can do to motivate me is to see that other people are are actually doing things. Seeing people make things is what keeps me motivated, because I could sit here and pump out 40 lines of changelogs in an hour, but seeing people put through two or three lines of changelogs that I haven't seen anything from in a while, man, makes me want to do so much more.
I think a good antidote for this is one of my IRL friends asked me today why I'm still playing Fallout New Vegas with 2,600 hours in it. And it's basically just like this. You want to play through different things and get those experiences that other people have made. There's a million mods for New Vegas,
Yeah.
and they come and more come out every single week, and more are gonna come out every single week until probably we're all dead. Um,
Yeah.
there's always something to do. Even like replaying old mods, you look at it through like a new light, and then like you have the understanding of why things are the way they are in those mods. Like a great example is looking at Russell from Some Guy 2000 and understanding why that mod just crashes all the fucking time. It's because there's a million fucking activators for everything, just spawning NPCs in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, wait, huh? And then you like figure out why Monster Mod crashes because all those meshes are broken and they use broken levelless activators. It's great. Clear room cache.
Yeah.
True. It's like
True.
I
So
really do
true.
hope that everyone who listens to this tries their hand at modding because it changes how you think about the game. It really does.
I think everyone should at some point try, at the very least. You don't have to be good at it. Just, as god awful repeated the statement is, just make it exist first. Make it exist first, make it good later. Some of the I mean shit, my first mods were really, really basic interior reworks for a couple of New Vegas interiors from 2015. Um, and now I'm making something. I don't know. Um, but honestly just being able to create things is really awesome. And being able to do things with the skills that you've honed over time is really awesome to see. And it goes for everything, it goes beyond just modding. Make things, make art, be joyous, because God, there's very little to be joyous about in the world with the way it's going at the moment. So why not enjoy art? Why not enjoy mods? Just have a good time.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Arksy Harger 2026.
Yes.
But to
That's so based.
start going on to the end of the show because it is midnight for me. And this question segment's probably going to take a minute. Everyone gets one question. One question for the both of us to answer. We will not be answering questions higher in the chat because y'all talk way too damn much. So, go forth.
Ghoul Jesus still exists. Since someone asked like 4 times. Lapin Quest was never finished because trying to finish that it wasn't worth the time investment. It was a very technically complicated quest that frankly just didn't have enough work done on it initially to justify me spending days trying to fix it up.
Johnny Enclave asks,
how do I feel?
How does /Tg/ feel about Frontier lore greater than Van Buren design document?
Never read it. I can't read.
That's so funny because yesterday's show was about a Van Buren thing. I'm
indifferent to it.
Sergio Booth asks, any interesting cut content in the Legacy build?
In the Legacy build, there was a decent amount of cut content. As nothing particularly interesting. There was some cool concepts that we had. I should say that I had with regards to Galeon Industries, which was the energy weapons manufacturer. I had initially put forth the idea that they would have this kind of aperture science scale laboratory where they were developing all of the technologies that you see in the Frontier, and it would be this sort of semi-platformer, semi-fight your way through this super massive scale dungeon. They were talking scales that haven't been seen in this engine before through trickery and stuff like that. It never happened because there was just too much modeling requirements to do, and I wasn't a good enough level of designer to really pull it off. But there was, we wrote some pretty crazy lore for the Galeon stuff, and why they sort of existed, and the lore for why they had certain things that I don't think will go much further on, aside from maybe some notes and stuff like that in the new Frontier. But it was cool, and that's a cool piece of cut content.
Abram asks, born ghouls? Question mark? I don't know.
No, born person. Me. Born person.
Me, born person. Me, not ghoul. Juan asks, other than the Stoner 63 replacing the Johnny guns, what other weapons have been added / replaced, and will there be a Legacy Frontier weapon pack? God, I hope
not. I really am not a fan of piecing out projects. It's a problem I've had with every project in existence. I really don't like the notion of a modeler completing one gun and then creating a whole mod around it. I have long since been opposed to piecing out any of the Frontiers stuff in any variety, because I think it's a pointless waste, honestly. There will be some more open permissions when the new Frontier comes out, but separate standalone things are off the table from me, at least. And in terms of weapons that have been added, replaced, we are replacing a very small selection of guns purely model-wise, because some of them didn't really make sense and some of them kind of sucked. We're adding a few new ones as well, a few uniques, just for fleshing out the world a little bit.
Before we touch on the next question, I feel like the Frontier has too many weapons. That's my opinion. But
Frontier does have too many weapons. Your opinion is noted and was spoken about in early 2017. So you are 9 years behind the times here.
Felix,
we know that Yeah, keep going.
Felix asks what to use my question on. I don't know, Chief. That was your question.
Oh, you've got no questions left.
Josh, quote unquote 9, Allen asks, I wasn't here if it was mentioned or not, but was the Brotherhood part of the mod being reworked or removed? Best part of the mod for me.
Brotherhood part is not being removed because they're now one of two actual quest lines that's still functional. They will be getting some very minor reworks. America is getting some rewrites to sort of reduce some of her more just sort of silly lines. Add some. We've done a new intro for them as well, a new side quest. There's a few odds and ends that we've done for the Crusaders, but for the most part, they were already existing in a state where I was relatively happy with them. We may come back to do some very slightly new content once we've gone through the bulk of the stuff that we've already got, but at the moment, they're sort of sitting in a happy place aside from needing more bug testing.
Let's see here. The next question is Squid. Do you think Nexus will crash again? Lol. It crashes every week.
That'd be funny. That would be very funny if it did. I don't think it will. I don't think we'll ever get a Nexus crash for Frontier again. That was sort of a wonderful moment in time for me, but it's not going to happen again.
All right, let's see here. Let's scroll down here. Can we still make it to space? No.
No.
Even I know that one. Listen, use your brain. I'm not reading that one. You already asked a question. Okay, so Seal, pronounce Felix. Sorry. How much Wild Wasteland stuff can we expect in the rework? How referential is it going to be?
Very little. We've intentionally avoided doing a lot of Wild Wasteland stuff, and in fact, a lot of Wild Wasteland stuff kind of got shot out from underneath the table. It no longer exists. We have a few, but for the most part, it has been exceptionally low in the list of the writing priorities because it's really not that important to us.
Okay. Floof Mother asks, will you be adding fat-ass harbor seals since they're native to the West Coast? If you don't, I hate you.
Oh, so valid. Find me a fat seal and find me someone to animate them and I'll add them.
So never. Let's see here. I noticed there are several large-scale changes. What do you think is the single biggest change between Legacy and the rework? Probably the cutting of the NCR quest and the whole space thing, as discussed earlier.
I think the single biggest change will actually be the player progression. Deleting the NCR, whatever. That's a big change, but I think the way the player will experience the Frontier is very, very different now, because the initial Frontier sort of played out kind of like New Vegas in that it was sort of dead shot corridor run with the NCR for a little while. Now the Frontier is significantly more open world, sort of akin to 3, where you kind of just get dumped in and get told, here's the main quest, figure out what to do beyond that. Good luck. So that sort of way we play is very different.
Let's see here. Still Not Re-enlisting asks, will the network side quest be sticking around in the rework? If so, will it be changed or expanded any? If I recall correctly, it was tied to progression in the old NCR campaign, or at least as I think starting required being at a certain point in its campaign.
Yeah, so NCR, the network side quest, is a bit of a tumultuous point at the moment because it is probably going to have to be one of those ones where we scrap it and start from scratch, which I really don't want to do. I try to avoid doing that if I can avoid it. That being said, it is very heavily tied to the NCR, which makes it difficult for me to sit down and actually just fix it in a sort of night like I normally do. But it is in the books for us to have a look at the very least.
Chumpkins asks, I love the world of the Frontier. Does the rework touch on any side content and world spaces?
Yes, massively. Beyond just the fixes up that we're doing to the world space, we're also doing some pretty major changes to some areas that didn't really have anything. We've showed it off before. We've now got this massive forested area. And man, you guys should see how good it's going to look once that's further developed, because it's going to be one of the most gorgeous areas ever made for a Fallout mod. And I feel pretty confident saying that, because just as it is right now, it is absolutely stunning. And we've just added a whole bunch of pickable flowers and like berries and plants and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be pretty awesome. But beyond just the new areas, we're also going back through a lot of the areas that existed in the legacy build in the main world space, especially in the city, and giving them a second pass of love, because a lot of those spaces were very early 2015 level quality. So we wanted to bring them up to the quality that we actually believe is worthwhile to show off nowadays.
Let's see here. President Ark C. Harger asks, will there be Deathclaw sex?
I am adding a Deathclaw named Ark.
Oh no! This backfired. That backfired pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well. Fuck. Maybe if I rejoin the Frontier, I can stop that. We're gonna do things to Deathclaw named Ark. I don't like that implication.
Yeah.
But now my real final question.
Absolutely.
I think my final question for you, unless there's you don't ask my question but use it on this. Oh sure. What about the unsafe working conditions mod? Are you going to include that into the Frontier, or is that still going to be its separate thing?
The unsafe harbor, you mean?
Yeah, that. Sorry, I'm stupid. Couldn't remember what his name was.
I have a very frustrated relationship with Unsafe Harbor. It will exist in the Frontier as is. It will have some fixes done to it, but it is so far and away the lowest level of priority that I could possibly give it, because it is now a decade since it has had any work done on it to make it fit in the world. It does not exist. It really just does not have any real coherence with the world as is. And for that reason, I don't really see it as a priority for me. Mm-hmm. Because why would I want to prioritize something that doesn't get referenced by more than a couple of things in the mod and doesn't reference anything that exists in the world?
That's very fair. I was just curious because I know it's a really popular thing. I know Mike Burnfire did his whole video on the Frontier and Unsafe Harbor as well, so it was at the forefront of my mind about
Frontier, a lot of people really liked it because it was essentially a self-contained quest mod in of itself. Personally, I am of the opinion that if I had known better, I would have released it as a separate mod entirely and used that harbor space for something, literally anything else. But beggars can't be choosers in this economy.
All right. I think that about does it. Do you have any final thoughts before we shove off here?
I am really excited for people to start seeing what we've been working on. I have been putting off doing development videos for a while, mostly because I hate doing editing. But I will hope that I can show off some more stuff. We've kind of been quiet. We try not to do too much crazy stuff. We kind of just try to work on our stuff in the background. But we are making pretty major amounts of progress but I'm really excited for people to see what we've been working on, and I think it's going to be pretty friggin' awesome once we're all done there.
Who else would you like to see on the show? Any other mod authors you want to shout out?
That's a good question. I'd love to see some more of the long 15 guys. Those guys are awesome.
Alaska is on my list. I just haven't reached out yet.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of the long 15 guys. I'm so much respect for the work that those guys did. Kind of made me feel very self-conscious about my ability to get things done. So it kind of put me in a bit of a desire to do more things mood for a little bit there. But yeah, there's so many fantastic modders. There's so many fantastic modders in this community, and despite the vitriol that exists between certain factions of modders and stuff like that, I like to think that there's a really great community here.
Drama and the
users, however, fuck them.
Man, fuck Nexus users can't fucking read.
Yeah, but I have huge amounts of respect for everyone who works on this engine in any major capacity, as long as you aren't a troublemaker.
As long as you aren't one of them, one of the bad ones. You know who
you're
are.
Saying you're just saying things now. You're just saying things.
That's the best part about having a show like this. I can just say things. Well,
yeah, it's
anyway.
Will anyone judge? Probably.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm the fucking president of the Arksy Harga show. I don't give a shit. But anyway, I really do appreciate you coming on. I know with the time schedule, it's been harder to get you on. The Aussies, you and Zammy are fucking hard to get here. I want to get Zammy on here too, but
yes,
Christ, on a bike. Well, anyway, thank you guys for coming to, I think, the largest attendance I've ever had for one of these shows. We peaked at like 33 views at one point. I really appreciate that. I know most of y'all are just here for the Frontier Man, but I really appreciate y'all being out here. I hope that you guys give my video a share when I upload it in about like 40 minutes. You're not speaking, Flute Mother. And again, just thank you guys.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I usually don't do shows back to back, but kind of had to.
That's so valid, King.
So, anyway, y'all fuck off. I'm ending the show now. Hope you guys have a great night. Ugh, fucking hiccup. Hope you guys have a great night. See you guys later.